to be really good even for you having at home, because if there is a medical emergency for your horse, you may need a stopgap measure before the vet gets there, just like with what Josh talked about with the quick clot. We had a horse that we think it was snake bitten, and it had an infection that ended up getting through a blood vessel. Ooh. And was doing a similar type of thing like that. That was just at our ranch, you know, a decade and a half ago. So I did just what Josh talked about, put a list on the outside. I'll leave this up here so if it takes a good picture, you can take a picture of it and know what to pack in your kit. So this is a medical kit that covers all the major injuries that we foresee could happen most commonly on a trail ride. I've used them around here though, plenty too, for, you know, it's just, I guess, the most common injuries anywhere. One of them would be lacerations. One of them would be like a broken bone or a sprain or a strain. And then there can be like a shock type of situation if someone's lost too much blood or if they have a medical condition and go into shock. So we've got things in here to help manage all of those. So let's go through them. First is Band-Aids, first and foremost and simplest, that can take a terrible ride and turn it into a more comfortable one.
Even for blisters.
Yeah. Blisters is the #1 reason to have them. Another good thing to have for that would be medical tape. Quick clot that Josh talked about. Guess where you can get this? Amazon! Originally, we had to go on like tactical first aid websites and make orders to get stuff like this, but now you can either get a powder or you can get an impregnated gauze. EMTs, I'm told, do not like this because it makes a mess for them to have to clean up. But if something's bleeding and I'm worried that they're just going to lose too much blood, human or animal, then that's what I'm going to let them worry on the back end about that part. The impregnated gauze ones are pretty good. You can you put it right on there, you wrap it real tight so you've got compression and you've got the chemical reaction of the clotting factor. And then if that bleeds through, you'd put an additional one on top of it. You don't remove it, you just continue layering. So I think this is great to have. Zip stitch, this thing is so cool. All right, so you talk about zip ties. This is zip ties for a wound. You put this over the wound, and it's clear plastic right there, so you can actually see the wound. So say you have a laceration, you're going to put it over that laceration, and then you're going to use these zip ties, pull them in opposite directions, and approximate the wound.
Oh, wow.
So cool. So I mean, this would be great for...
How do you even know about that?
I don't... this is my favorite bandage. This is an Ace bandage, but total military style. It's got a lot of really neat... doodads to it. I do keep regular Ace bandages sometimes too because they may be good for wrapping, but this, if you have it vacuum sealed, it doesn't take up much space. But I got this one out to show you. So it's just your regular old bandage. Sometimes you can get these with every 18 inches they'll have a strip of Velcro. It's a stop strip, so it doesn't do this, and you know, you lose the whole thing and get it all dirty. But it'll unroll a little bit, and then you'll let the Velcro ungo on the next one. This is it's got a bandage on there. On the flip side of the bandage, it's got this really interesting crescent shape, and this is useful for several things. The most used purpose would be, can I borrow an arm?
Yep.
If you put that on the wound, you can take this, and as you're wrapping, you put it through the slit that's right there, and it allows you, every time you go, to have it secured, and then you can go over the top of it, and as you do, it applies downward pressure onto the wound. If things get real bad for Josh, this can be used as a tourniquet.
Oh no!
So you can twist it several times, and then you wrap this around, and it secures it. And so tourniquet is one of the things that I do include in the emergency pack, but I was able to take it out because this can serve that purpose. It can also be used if there's an eye injury. This can be used to avoid putting direct pressure on the eye so that you can bandage. If you have an eye injury, you want to wrap both so that you don't have that compensatory movement of the damaged eye and avoid scratches. And then once you're finished wrapping, it's got these, you know, if you have an Ace bandage and you have those little metal daggers that you're supposed to put on, and then you drop them, and this, just when you're done wrapping, you just tuck it right into itself on the sides like this, and it just keeps it nice and secure. So this is an Israeli bandage. Gauze, but you could use, the other thing you can use this for is if there's a sprain strain, you can create a sling out of this. I mean, it grips really good. It's got a one-way, sort of some teeth in there to hold it steady. You can create If I have a sprain, this could be a shoulder issue, a wrist issue, any of it, you can create a sling of this and secure it to immobilize that joint. That can be bleeding, so say it's bleeding but it's not bad enough to need quick clot. You can get rolls of gauze that you just keep in there for bloody issues. And we always keep Benadryl. We don't have any anaphylactic type of allergies, but we've been on the trail 2 or 3 times where someone had been stung by ground wasps or something and they were having an episode. And we didn't used to carry it back then, but now we do. I mean, this is the gel kind, so it's quickly absorbable, and Josh says you can actually give Benadryl to horses. The powdered kind can be ground and given to them. And duct tape. This is like a little piece of corrugated stuff in there and then the tape wrapped around it, so it just makes a really awesome little pack in there that you could use. You can use this to get a horse who's had lost a shoe, to keep that, you know, put your saddle back together. Josh had a trailer, not a horse trailer, but a trailer that he was much smaller than this. The tire went flat while they were hauling something, so they got some duct tape, made a loop around it, and then as the guy drove, the other guy just kind of let it unravel and go around the tire, and it got them back home. So he went on the website, he thought, somebody needs to hear this story. And it wasn't even in the top 50 of good stories that were on their website that people post, so duct tape. And then the Mylar blanket, because if someone is in shock, or if there is a lot of blood loss, conserving heat is good. So this can conserve heat if that happens. It could be used to signal if you're lost. It can be used if someone's incapacitated to turn it into a makeshift stretcher to be able to drag or bring someone out if need be. And they just don't take up any space and they're not very heavy. And then electrolytes. This is just an electrolyte powder. And if someone is in a shock type of situation, or, you know, this is something that's good to have to make the most of the hydration that you do have if you don't have much water. The goal would be to get as much blood volume maintained as possible to reduce a catastrophic, fatal type of situation. So I have done it.
Bigger kit for our trailer. This is what we just kind of carry, and then this is a bigger kit for the trailer. You can look through that. And then the last thing I go over is what we carry for our horses. So this is a horse kit. And I label all these. It actually says horses on top of it, and that one says people. So for the horses, I just pack what I generally see. You know, what I've experienced myself. Duct tape is always #1. So we have a flushing syringe, and this one is for if we get any cuts, wounds, whatever. Punctures is a big one. We can use this. You can use betadine for this. If nothing else, use water. I was talking to my vet the other day, and he was saying that some new studies that have just come out, they were talking about how, you know, you don't even have to use purified water, distilled water, all that stuff. You can just use it out of the water hose for horses to flush their wounds, and they have found that it makes no difference. So just use hose pipe. That works too.
Stuff they put in it.
But this is a big one because you can get into the wound, right? So I carry one of those. I carry vet wrap. Everybody has vet wrap. I do carry Scarlex. Anybody have Scarlex at their farm? We use some of that. So you know, that's just to cover, to spray wounds. We have gauze in here, rolls of gauze. And anytime your horse gets injured, it's going to be at night. So always have a flashlight, and it's always on the weekend too. I have a marker in here for if you have, especially for people, if they get like stung or if they have some kind of a reaction, you can mark that reaction. If you have a horse that has stepped on a nail and you know where that nail went in, you can mark that. If you can keep it clean until the vet gets there, that way he knows what he was dealing with and where it went.